Hi guys, welcome to Learn Electronics Repair, and we actually have some car booty. So you've noticed, I'm sure, the last few months I really haven't had anything much in the way of car booty. I seem to have kind of exhausted a lot of the supply on the island. I mean, I've been doing this for over 4 years and sometimes finding 5 or 6 machines, on one occasion 12 at the same time, yeah, all Pentium 1. So I just seem to be finding less, plus the guy I buy a lot of the stuff off hasn't been around of late, so, well, there you go. It's not that I don't want to make the car booty videos, I really enjoy doing it actually. I want to know what's in the box. But I did find this one at the flea market, so we just have the one today, and guarantee any more I find and when and where I do find them, they'll be on the channel, okay? So, let's have a look at this. I paid €15 for this one, so this is not off the guy I've been regularly buying from. I did see him a couple of weeks ago and he didn't have any, by the way. And this, if you can read that there, says it's a 286. Yeah, a 286. So definitely a retro machine, we can say that. Hit computer series. We have a turbo button. And on the back here on the sticker, probably can't get it easily to focus for you guys, but it says 286-12. And I think this is a 12 megahertz 286. So one of the oldest PCs that I have found for sure. It looks to be in pretty good condition overall. Let's open it up and have a look. So we have a graphics card, a GPU. This is either VGA or SVGA. It has a VGA type connector on there. The difference between VGA and SVGA, by the way, being the resolutions it supports. This is a multi-IO card, so we have a serial and parallel port on the back, and then we have the floppy and the hard drive controller. The hard drive is in here, so it does have a hard drive. It has a 5¼ inch floppy and a 3½ inch. I don't have any discs that would fit into that 5¼ inch drive, to be honest. It looks pretty clean, and surprisingly, the battery just a little bit corroded. Normally these are really bad, so we need to take that off the board straight away, to be quite honest. These are board destroyers pretty much, and it may have damaged this one. 5¼ inch floppy. At least we can say it activates. It's not seized. The mechanics, yeah, it moves. So it's not seized up, we can say that much. There's no RAM in here, but I'm pretty sure this is RAM, and that is cache, probably. Have to find a data sheet. Could be like 1 meg of RAM here or something. So yeah, each one says 256 on at least. So you may have 640k of base RAM plus a little bit more, yeah. And then you can expand it here. I have some of these sims, whether I have any here, I'm not totally sure. So because I need to deal with this battery, let's get this motherboard out. Yeah, it's like a chemistry experiment you would have done when you were a kid, I think. Okay, so that's the battery. And we can see where some of that has gone onto the board on these tracks. Just a little bit there as well. Other side, well, that's one battery terminal and that was the other one. Okay. That's not so bad, I mean, a bit crusty. Okay, let's try and clean this up. This is one of the case mounting screws, by the way, that had seized itself into this, but I should be able to get that off now. Okay, so we can see now there are 2 tracks coming round here. This one also, third one, but that doesn't look so bad. There's a little bit more there. So hopefully we can actually get a contact into the via here. We can either trace the tracks to where they go over that way, or to be quite honest, you can put a tiny little scratch into the track here somewhere, just to see if we get a connection. Yeah, you heard it then, yeah, so we actually had a connection. Okay, you can always put a little bit of solder mask on. If you don't like using this method, just trace it to see where it goes. Okay, so this is that next one up there. Yeah, that's okay. This one, you hear the little bleep I had it. Yeah, so they're all okay. I'm confident enough this one is going to be okay. The big thick one we can see goes off onto that transistor somewhere, but yeah, and that one actually goes through the board. Okay, so they seem to be okay. And then we have two more. So one of them comes down here. That's after the worst of the corrosion there somewhere. You probably want a slightly better tip than this. I do have some on the other meter. This one might be bad actually. Goes through there. Let's have a look. That goes through to there. Where does that end up? It goes through again here. Yeah, I've got the meter probe poked through the hole just below that jumper there. It's actually here. And that goes to the BIOS chip. So that actually goes to there. A little mark on it so I don't lose it. And the other end, well, it's that top track. Oh, that goes to here, okay. So we'll try and get a connection there. That one's definitely broken, okay. So we need to fix that. Well, I can see from the chip to here. Just get a connection on, so it's there. So it's okay as far as there. But if we go to the hole here, it reads kind of like, well, 850 ohms. So the problem is somewhere along this top bit. Probably where it comes past here, I think. That seems to be the worst corroded part of it. Yeah, of course I'm scratching the marking off. Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, surprisingly, that actually looks alright there. Maybe. Or maybe that's where it's broken, is just here. Let's have a look. So I have a bit of exposed copper here now. These tips are a bit knackered, technical term there. Try some different probes. Oh, okay. I can't really see it, but I seem to have a problem just there. Interesting. Okay, let's try get a bit of thin wire wrap wire and kind of like, if we get some flux on this and see if we just solder it along there. Okay, let's see. What's tinned? That's pretty much tinned all the way along. Yeah, get yourself a roll of this stuff. It'll last you forever. Wire wrapping wire. Okay? And it's useful for all sorts of things. It's a single strand wire, quite thin. Easy to remove the insulation from, just with your fingernail. It tins nicely. And it's good for fixing this sort of problem. You should stick it down with a bit of solder mask afterwards, but get some flux also, because that's making a mess. There's enough solder on the wire. Okay. Okay. Let's try that. So from the chip. Okay, and I still seem to have a problem with this track, so this is where it comes along here. Have a connection to there, have a connection to there, a little bit further along then. I mean, this is corroded, so it's scraping off easily, and I don't seem to have a connection to there. But we can fix that the same way. Let's try that. So from here, yeah, okay, so we have it. As you could see when I was soldering that, you need to get flux on, otherwise it kind of just clogs up. Although these tracks are very close, there's no chance of that shorting against that one. And you can use some of this UV activated solder mask, okay, to cover that over. But I would like to test this first to see if it actually is working. The motherboard, by the way, IO620, 28612, yeah. So these have the processor already attached. Look, AMD were making processors even in those days. 28612 megahertz, okay. Your chipset, of course. This space is probably for a coprocessor. These chips look like RAM to me, -80, you can see. These look like cache. And there are some dip switches, of course. Okay. Well, just a quick search. I didn't actually go for a data sheet, but I can see here DOSdays.co.uk. High speed, low power, CMOS RAM. Okay, so this is RAM. This is the graphics card. Amazing VGA. Yeah, amazing. How about that? So this should be able to boot up without any sims in. It has onboard RAM, okay. I've attached a known good AT power supply, so that's plugged on here. I have a speaker attached, so we shouldn't need to put any RAM in here. This is the graphics card that came with it. Let's power this up and see what it actually does. Well, there's a blue light on the monitor. Oh, look. CMOS RAM, check battery, keyboard error, floppy disk error, etc. Press F1. So this actually boots 640k of memory, like I said. So we have almost certainly a good working motherboard there. I'll see if I can get into the BIOS, but with these old boards, this probably will not auto detect the hard drive, the ID hard drive. Okay. Okay, so I have a keyboard attached. CMOS RAM error, yeah, because there's no battery. Press F1 key to continue, or Control Alt Escape for setup. But that's the BIOS, Control Alt Escape. Okay, I'm glad it told me that. I would have had some trouble working that one out. In fact, I wouldn't have done, I think. So it's the 1st of January 1980. Yeah, we can see the 1 meg of RAM. Now you see that it says diskette 1, diskette 2, and then disk 1 and disk 2. So this is your hard drive, says none, and then you got cylinders, head sectors, pre-comp and LAN zone. Okay, and as I recall with these, you have to, yeah, look, different size drives and different numbers of cylinders and whatever. Okay, but it doesn't have an auto. What it has is ones where you can manually enter the information. So what we need to do now is get the hard drive and see what the actual settings are. Now, the problem with this is twofold. One, such a hard drive of that age just may not work. It may just not be working anymore. And two, if it was originally set up using different parameters to the ones marked on the drive, or if there are no parameters marked on the drive, we may not be able to access it. So if you don't have the correct parameters, you can't access the drive even if it's working, if there's data on it. But these boards will not auto detect. And the other thing is that before we can detect the hard drive, we need to put the multi-IO card back in. Okay, so here's the hard drive. So a Seagate ST351A/X made in Thailand. Caution, do not low level format. I'm sure somebody can tell me why. There's no sticker on this, there's no marking, so it doesn't tell you the heads and cylinders and such like. Let's just see if we can find a data sheet for this, or some sort of information, not necessarily a data sheet. Okay, so it tells us it's a 43 meg hard drive, and we have cylinders, heads and sectors here. Okay, so we might be able to set this up. Let's have a go. Okay, so I've put the multi-IO in back in the same slot it originally was. The hard drive is there. Let's see if we can boot this again with the hard drive on. And does it spin up? That's a good question. Oh yes. I can hear it seeking as well. Listen to that. Glorious, eh? Right. Control Alt Escape. So we need to put the parameters in. They may be already there anyway. We can have a quick look. We'd start with 980 if this one is on the list of preset ones. No, so we enter our own. So I think you press enter. So cylinders 980. Okay. Heads 5. Sectors 17. I don't know what pre-comp didn't have that, or platter. So that's what I have. Let's see if this will even start from this. Okay, press F5. Press F5 to confirm that you pressed F10. I hear it. Try F1 to continue. Checking operating system or something, it's off the screen. No, missing operating system it says. So although it's accessing the drive, it doesn't actually boot from it. It literally could have nothing on it. It could be that the parameters it was originally set up with don't match what's in that old data I found. Maybe it was set up with some different like sectors and whatever, in which case it'll kind of work but won't boot, it won't find the operating system. I'm going to Google this to see if there's any way you can actually find out what parameters were set on the drive, but from back in the day I certainly don't know of any. Maybe the AI knows these days. Yeah. Okay, let's chat then. I found an old 286 PC at the flea market. I got it working. It boots the HD6 but no OS found. I manually entered ID parameters. I've told it to type of hard drive, as this mouse does not auto detect IDE. Is there any way to determine if the HD was originally set up using other parameters which would prevent it from booting? I have no idea what, if anything, is on the HD. That's what it says. Yeah, so it agrees with me if a different drive geometry was used, it can prevent it from booting. How to figure it out? Oh. Well, I googled it and got a different number of heads. Right, RetroWeb told me SD351AX is 980. My keyboard's not found a 5. There we go. 985.17, not 980.10.17. Okay, so I did put the right one in. Why, you might see 10. So in other words, the AI was wrong and it knows it was wrong. So, yep, I've entered that. It's then telling me to try these settings, which is the most common translation for compatibility, okay? Or use tools like test disk or Norton. So it's probably telling me I can boot from a floppy if I had one, and I can then find out what was used, okay, and other things that can prevent booting. Okay, so we'll try 490.10.17. It's also saying try common preset types 17, 4 or 42. Okay. Well, that's interesting because now I've changed it to 490.10.17. It says in Spanish, no as a disk system or error in the disk, replace and then press a key. Okay, so it's actually changed. I think that's actually coming from the drive. Let's see what the AI thinks of that. Okay, so after chatting with the AI, what a nice chap that is, yeah. He says, or she says, that the parameters I use on the hard drive are close enough. It was probably formatted with a Spanish floppy disk, Spanish DOS, okay, which is why that message comes up in Spanish. That message is coming from the boot sector, basically, of the hard drive, so the hard drive is working. The suggestion is that I get a bootable DOS floppy and we try to boot from that. I have, well, obviously the machine has a 5.25 inch and a 3.5 inch drive. I have 1 or 2 floppy disks around, but I've tried this before and none of them actually seem to work. They seem to have bad sectors on the diskette, so that seems to be the problem. I think maybe Carlos might have some floppy disks like that, so I'll have a chat with Carlos. Maybe this is something, if you guys feel like, we can play with on the live stream this weekend, okay? But yeah, it basically appears for my €15 I have a working, really old 286, and that must be quite rare. I suppose just before we go, we need to have a look to see if this may be worth something. Let's try something like a 286 PC. Try that, see what. Well, there's a kind of, yeah, same speed, but it says no power, no boot. Odds 179 for it. That's an IBM. They're kind of a thing on their own, really, as a retro thing. Okay, 220. Another one there, like 320. Yeah. Let's see if anybody's bought any of these. That's the more interesting thing. So I go to advanced and sold. And the fact is the buyers are not out there, at least not in the last few months. I think this goes back about 3 months. So if it's really worth anything, well, you know, unless somebody's buying them, I think the answer has to be not really. But I do think it is worth something, and if you find somebody who wants it, you're certainly going to get more than €15 I paid for it, especially as it appears to be working. If I get a DOS floppy, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't be able to reinstall the operating system on this, or maybe even have a look to see if there is anything actually on this hard drive. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down there, and I look forward to seeing you all soon again on Learning Electronics Repair. Ciao for now, guys.